That night, as the December snow fell outside, I looked into his eyes differently, not as a mother should. His fingers traced my cheek and I didn't pull away. After 19 years of loving him as my son, I finally told him the truth about his adoption. What I never expected was what he whispered next. "I've never seen you as just my mother." The confession hung between us like delicate frost on a window pane, beautiful and terrifying. Our kitchen always smelled of cinnamon in winter. I was pulling an apple pie from the oven when I felt that familiar sensation. His eyes on me before I heard him. Sarah and Michael. Mother and son. At least, that's what the adoption papers tucked away in the attic said. "That smells incredible," Michael said, leaning against the doorframe, his broad shoulders filling the space. The morning light caught in his dark hair, highlighting the stubble along his jaw. I turned, wooden spoon in hand, and our eyes met across the warm kitchen. Something in his gaze lingered a moment too long, making my fingers tighten around the spoon. "Just an old recipe," I smiled, setting the pie on the counter. "Though I think this might be my best one yet." He moved toward me, each step deliberate. My breath caught as he reached past me for a taste, his chest brushing my shoulder. The heat of him so close made my skin tingle beneath my sweater. "You say that every time," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. His finger dipped into the filling, and I watched, transfixed, as he brought it to his lips. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, too warm. I stepped back, brushing a strand of hair from my face with trembling fingers. "Careful, it's hot," I warned, my voice betraying me with a slight tremor. His eyes darkened slightly. "I don't mind." Later that afternoon, I found myself in the garden, kneeling among the winter-dormant rose bushes, pruning shears in hand. The cold air cleared my head of thoughts I shouldn't be having. The sound of the back door made me look up. Michael stood there, 2 steaming mugs in hand, his frame silhouetted against the house. He'd thrown on a light jacket but hadn't bothered with gloves. Those hands, artist's hands with long fingers that could repair anything, carried our drinks with careful precision. "Thought you might need warming up," he said, crossing the yard. As he handed me the mug, our fingers brushed. A jolt of electricity shot through me that had nothing to do with the temperature. I took a sip to hide my reaction, the hot liquid burning my tongue. "Thanks," I managed, looking up at him from where I knelt in the garden. He didn't move away. Instead, he crouched beside me, so close I could smell his cologne mingling with the earthy scent of the garden. His shoulder pressed against mine as he balanced. "These will bloom beautifully in spring," he said, his voice low and intimate as if sharing a secret. His fingers brushed a dormant bud, surprisingly gentle for their strength. "He doesn't know what he's doing to me," I thought, my heart racing. "He can't know. They always do," I whispered back, suddenly aware of how alone we were in the yard, hidden from neighbors by tall hedges. That evening we settled on the couch for our weekly movie night. A tradition since Michael was 12, now transformed into something else entirely. A weekly exercise in restraint. "Your pick tonight," Michael said, sinking into the cushions beside me. I chose an old Hitchcock film, hoping the suspense would distract me from his proximity. But as the opening credits rolled, Michael shifted, stretching his arm along the back of the couch behind me. Not touching, but close enough that I felt the heat radiating from him. The lamp cast half his face in shadow, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw. I pretended to focus on the screen, but my attention kept drifting to where his fingers rested inches from my shoulder. Halfway through the film, he reached for the throw blanket and spread it across both our laps. As he settled back, he was closer than before, our thighs nearly touching beneath the shared warmth. "Cold?" he asked, his voice a low rumble in the darkened room. "A little," I admitted, though cold was the furthest thing from what I felt. His hand found mine beneath the blanket, fingers intertwining with mine in a way that was anything but maternal. I should have pulled away. Instead, I let my thumb trace the ridge of his knuckles, feeling the slight roughness of his skin. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain he could hear it over the film's tense score. Morning brought clarity, or so I told myself. I'd made my coffee and was standing by the kitchen window when I felt him before I heard him. That sixth sense mothers develop. Except the shiver that ran down my spine wasn't maternal at all. "Morning," Michael said, his voice still rough with sleep. He moved past me to reach the coffee pot, his body brushing mine in the narrow space between counter and table. The contact was brief but electric, sending a rush of heat to my face. Sleep well. I asked, not meeting his eyes. Dreams kept me up, he replied, and something in his tone made me look at him. His eyes held mine, intense and searching. Vivid ones. I swallowed hard, turning back to the window. The winter does that sometimes. Keeps our minds active when we should be resting. He stepped closer, leaning against the counter beside me, our shoulders touching. Maybe, he said softly. Or maybe it's something else. The morning light cast his profile in gold, highlighting the curve of his lips as he sipped his coffee. I watched his throat move as he swallowed, transfixed by the simple motion. This is wrong, I thought desperately. He's my son. But the adoption papers in the attic whispered another truth. One I wasn't ready to face. That afternoon, Michael insisted on helping with dinner. The kitchen, spacious enough on ordinary days, seemed to shrink with both of us moving about. Each time we reached for the same utensil or brushed past each other, electricity crackled in the air between us. Here, let me, he said, stepping behind me as I struggled with a stubborn jar lid. His chest pressed against my back, arms encircling me to take the jar from my hands. I froze, caught in the cage of his body, feeling his breath stir the hair at my temple. His hands, so much larger than mine, easily twisted the lid free. Thank you, I whispered, not daring to turn around. He didn't step back immediately. For 3 heartbeats, I counted them in the thundering pulse at my throat. He remained there, his warmth enveloping me. When he finally moved away, his hand trailed across my lower back, a touch so light it might have been accidental, but the look in his eyes when I finally turned told me it wasn't. That night, I stood under the shower's hot spray longer than necessary, trying to wash away thoughts no mother should have. Steam fogged the glass, creating a cocoon of warmth and privacy where my mind wandered dangerous paths. I thought of his eyes following me across rooms, his hands finding excuses to touch mine, the way he said "Mom" with a hesitation that grew more pronounced each day. As if the word no longer fit what we were becoming, water cascaded down my body as I closed my eyes, imagining different hands on my skin, younger, stronger hands that knew exactly how to touch me. A sob caught in my throat, half desire, half self-loathing. What kind of mother am I? But a voice whispered back, "You're not his mother by blood." I turned off the water with trembling fingers and wrapped myself in a towel, avoiding my reflection in the mirror. The next evening, Michael returned home with flowers, white lilies, my favorite. He handed them to me with an intensity that made my heart stutter. "What's the occasion?" I asked, burying my face in their fragrance to hide my blush. "Do I need one?" His voice had dropped to that register that made my skin prickle with awareness. "I saw them and thought of you." Our fingers brushed as I took the bouquet, the contact brief but electric. His eyes held mine, searching for something I was afraid he'd find. "They're beautiful," I murmured, turning away to find a vase. He followed me to the kitchen, leaning against the doorframe, watching as I arranged the flowers. The weight of his gaze felt physical, like a caress against my skin. "So are you." The words hung in the air between us. I nearly dropped the scissors I was using to trim the stems, my hands suddenly clumsy. "Michael," I began, not knowing how to finish. He crossed the kitchen in 3 long strides, stopping just behind me. His hands came to rest on my shoulders, thumbs pressing gently into the tense muscles at the base of my neck. "You work too hard," he said, his voice low and intimate in my ear. "Always taking care of everyone else." His fingers began to move, kneading away knots of tension I hadn't realized I carried. I should have stopped him. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, eyes fluttering closed as a small sigh escaped my lips. "That feels nice," I whispered, the words slipping out before I could catch them. His hands stilled for a heartbeat, then continued with renewed purpose, working their way down my spine with gentle pressure. Each touch sent sparks of pleasure pain through my nervous system. "Good," he said simply. "You deserve to feel good." Days passed, tension building like storm clouds on the horizon. Michael found more reasons to touch me. A hand at my elbow guiding me through a doorway, fingers brushing mine when passing the salt, his shoulder pressed against mine as we watched television. Each touch lingered longer than the last, each gaze held more heat. We were playing a dangerous game, drawing lines in the sand only to step over them moments later. I found him in the attic one afternoon, surrounded by dusty boxes. My heart stopped when I saw what he held, the manila envelope containing his adoption papers. "Michael," I began, but my voice failed me. He looked up, eyes clouded with confusion and something else I couldn't name. Were you ever going to tell me? I sank to my knees beside him, dust motes dancing in the shaft of sunlight between us. I wanted to. So many times. Why didn't you? His voice was soft, hurt rather than angry. My hand reached out, hovering over his before settling on his forearm. His skin was warm beneath my fingers, the fine hairs soft to my touch. I was afraid, I admitted. Afraid you'd feel different about me. About us. His eyes met mine, intense and searching. Different how? The air in the attic grew thick, charged with unspoken words. My grip on his arm tightened slightly. That you wouldn't see me as your mother anymore. His free hand came up to cover mine, his thumb tracing slow circles on my wrist. And what if I told you I haven't seen you as just my mother for a long time now? My breath caught in my throat. We were crossing into dangerous territory, approaching a point of no return. What do you mean? I whispered, though I knew, God help me, I knew. He leaned closer, the adoption papers forgotten between us. I think you know, Sarah. Sarah. Not Mom. The distinction sent a shiver down my spine. That night, snowfall transformed our world into a silent wonderland. I stood at the living room window, watching fat flakes swirl in the glow of the streetlights. The reflection in the glass showed Michael approaching, 2 glasses of wine in hand. Beautiful, isn't it? He said, offering me one. Our fingers brushed during the exchange, a familiar jolt of electricity passing between us. He stood beside me, our shoulders touching as we gazed out at the transformed landscape. It reminds me of the night I brought you home, I said softly. It was snowing then too. He turned to look at me, his expression thoughtful. Tell me about that night. I took a sip of wine, the rich flavor warming me from within. You were so small. Only 6 weeks old. The social worker warned me you might be difficult, born premature to a teenage mother who couldn't keep you. My voice caught on the memory. But you were perfect. The moment they placed you in my arms, I knew we belonged together. Michael set his glass down on the windowsill, his hand coming up to brush a strand of hair from my face. The touch lingered, his fingers tracing the line of my jaw. We still do, he whispered. His palm cupped my cheek, thumb brushing across my lower lip. I should have pulled away. Instead, I leaned into his touch, my eyes fluttering closed. Michael, we can't. Why not? His voice was a caress in itself. You're not my biological mother. You didn't give birth to me, but I raised you, I protested weakly, even as I turned my face into his palm, my lips brushing his wrist. Yes, he agreed, stepping closer until our bodies were nearly flush against each other. You gave me life in every way that matters. The wine made my head swim, or perhaps it was his proximity, the heat of him seeping through my sweater where our bodies almost touched. This is wrong, I whispered, but my hand betrayed me, coming to rest on his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath my palm. Does it feel wrong? He asked, his free hand settling on my waist, drawing me closer still. It didn't. That was the terrifying truth. Felt like coming home. Later that night, after we'd stepped back from the precipice, I lay awake in my bed, listening to the house settle around me. My body hummed with unfulfilled desire, my mind a battlefield of conflicting emotions. A soft knock at my door made me sit up, clutching the blanket to my chest though I was fully clothed in pajamas. Yes. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. The door opened slightly, and Michael stood in the gap, his figure silhouetted by the hall light. I can't sleep, he said simply. I should have sent him away. Instead, I shifted over, making room beside me on the bed. He crossed the room silently, moonlight reflecting off the snow outside, casting his face in silver and shadow. The mattress dipped as he sat beside me, close enough that I could feel his warmth but not touching. I keep thinking about what you told me, he said, staring at his hands. About the adoption. I nodded, not trusting my voice. It explains so much, he continued. Why I felt different. About us. My heart hammered against my ribs. Michael, let me finish, he interrupted gently. I need to say this. I fell silent, watching his profile in the moonlight as he gathered his thoughts. I've loved you my whole life, he said finally. As my mom, my protector, my guide. But these past few years that love has changed, grown into something else. He turned to me then, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. I tried to fight it, told myself it was wrong, twisted. But then I found those papers and suddenly everything made sense. His hand found mine atop the covers, fingers intertwining. I'm not your biological son, Sarah. And you're not my biological mother. But I raised you, I whispered, the same weak protest from earlier. Yes, he acknowledged. And I'll always be grateful for that. But I'm a man now. A man with feelings for a woman who gave him everything. His free hand came up to cup my cheek, turning my face toward his. Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll never speak of this again. I should have lied. Should have protected us both from this dangerous path. But in the silver moonlight, with his warmth so close and his eyes so earnest, I couldn't. I feel it, I whispered, the admission both terrible and freeing. God help me, I feel it too. His exhale was shaky, relief and desire mingled. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, testing, questioning. What do we do now? He asked, his voice rough with emotion. I closed my eyes, leaning into his touch. I don't know. This is uncharted territory. He moved closer, the heat of him intoxicating in the cool bedroom. We don't have to decide everything tonight. My eyes opened to find his face inches from mine. His gaze dropping to my lips and back up. A question in them waiting for an answer. No, I agreed, my voice barely audible. We don't. When his lips finally met mine, gentle and questioning, I knew we'd crossed a line we could never uncross. But as his arms wrapped around me, drawing me against the solid warmth of his chest, I couldn't find it in myself to care. In that moment, we weren't mother and son. We were simply Sarah and Michael, two souls who had found each other across impossible odds, bound by love that had transformed into something neither of us had expected. Whatever came next, we would face it together.